Hey guys, we got a pretty cool project that we're going to be working on today. We're going to be putting some Poison Spyder Bombshell diff covers on the Jeep. Think it should be a fun, easy project. Alright, before we get started, make sure you give this video a like. Make sure to click the notification bell, and as always, feel free to subscribe. Alright, let's do it. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to paint our bare steel diff covers. And for that, I got some generic type Rust-Oleum high heat flat black spray paint, and this will be really easy to use in the future to touch these up after we've dinged them off some rocks. All right, so let's get that done real quick. And you can see that I left the fill plugs in because I didn't want to get any paint on the inside of the threads, and I'm ultimately going to want the outside of these plugs to be painted black to match. And then once we get them on and installed, we'll just give it a little touch-up paint, getting around all the edges and all the bolt holes. Get a nice even coat. All right, now that that's done, while we're waiting for these to dry, we'll start working on getting our rear diff cover off and getting the oil drained out of it. All right, so you can see that on our rear Dana 44 differential housing, we have an upper fill plug and then we have a lower drain plug. So what we're gonna start by doing is removing our fill plug so that way we can let some air into the housing, and then we'll remove our lower drain plug so the oil can easily flow out. All right, and then while we wait for the rest of that oil to drain out, we're going to start taking off our diff cover bolts. And you want to make sure to have something underneath your differential housing to collect all the oil that's going to come out. Okay. All right, and then we have our last bolt up top. Okay, so to get this factory diff cover off, it's going to be really tight on there with the factory RTV, but you just want to get something up behind it, and then for me, I just give it a little whack with my mallet, and then it peels right off for us. All right, now that we have our diff cover off, I'm looking at my ring gear and it looks pretty good. I'm not seeing any large chips or cracks. Everything looks pretty nice. And then taking a look at our gear oil, I'm seeing some light gray swirls, but nothing too major. It still looks pretty dark. Looks pretty good. All right, now let's get this housing cleaned out with some simple brake clean. And then we'll get this RTV off the lip, and then we'll get our new cover and gasket on. All right, so to get this gasket off the edge, I'm just going to take a simple scraper tool and work my way around. And the idea is we just want a nice flat surface for that gasket and that new cover to make a nice tight seal. And the reason why I'm doing this first is because if any of this old sealant gets inside the housing, it'll come out when we spray it down with our brake clean. And one more time around the edge with a razor blade just to make sure, get all the little bits. This is very important to get that nice tight seal so we don't leak gear oil all over the place out of our housing. Okay, now that we're pretty pleased that we have a nice flat clean surface to mount our new lube locker and diff cover to, we'll go ahead and start spraying out our differential with some brake clean. And I want to add that if you're going to be down here doing this close, you should definitely wear some type of face or breathing protection. Now, I'm not really seeing a lot of metal shavings. It's pretty good. Not really seeing anything. Well, I'm going to say that's a win. All right, now that things are pretty well drained out and dried up from all that brake cleaner, we're going to get our rear drain plug back in. In case you're wondering, I did inspect the magnetic drain plug. I found some tiny metal shavings or some small bits of metallic dust, nothing too crazy. All right, shuts in there nice and tight. All right, and then to get our new cover with our lube locker on, I'm just gonna start a bolt through the very top hole and then use that to line things up. And once we get it supported by that single bolt loosely, can go ahead and align the rest of our holes and start working our way around and then torque it down. All right, now that all of these are started, let's go ahead and get them torqued down to spec, and then we can get our differential filled back up and finish up with the front, and we'll be done. All right, so what I found online was that I need to take these, it seemed like the general consensus was 25 foot-pounds was right about where I needed to be. So I'm gonna start slowly tightening some of these, just work my way around. I don't want to go too hard because I've also heard of people snapping these off accidentally from over torquing them. Okay, and let's get this filled up. All right, so if you're wondering what we're going to be refilling our diffs with, it's going to be this Lucas heavy duty high performance SAE 80W90 gear oil. So it's really good stuff, very high quality. Just want to make sure that we don't overfill it, otherwise when the gear oil heats up, we'll have hot gear oil shooting out of our breather hose. And as we're doing this, we want to look for leaks at the bottom, make sure everything's nice and tight. Overall though, I have to say I'm pretty pleased with how this diff cover came out. I think it looks really good. I know that often people will add colored accents, but I wanted sort of the more subdued, just flat black look. I think it looks really good. Let's start on the next bottle. And then we have our new fill plug here that I've wrapped with a little bit of Teflon tape. All right, so for our front Dana 30 housing, you can see that our drain plug is right here on the back side, and to get this gear oil drained and our diff cover off, we're pretty much going to do exactly what we did for the rear. All right, so let's get these differential cover bolts off. All right. All right, now that we have pretty much gaskets scraped off and it feels like we have a nice flat smooth surface to work with, let's get this sprayed out and that cover back on. Let's see what we got going here. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It doesn't look like anything too bad. I'm not seeing any large chips or cracks. I think it actually looks pretty good. These gears have held up pretty well for 72,000 miles, I gotta say. As soon as this dries up, we'll get that diff cover back on. All right, now let's get our drain plug back on. Okay, and then to get our front cover back on, we're basically gonna do the same thing that we do with the rear. It's because it's just gonna be a little bit more difficult. It's a little bit tight back here. All right, perfect. And that's our starting point. It's gonna be a little bit tricky, but bad angle. All right. Slight hair more will be where we need to be. All right. All right, and then we'll get our fill plug back on. They're all cleaned up. Looks like we have no leaks on the bottom. All right, and I'll just keep my eye on this over the next couple days to make sure we have a good seal and nothing's leaking, but I think we should be good. All right, guys. As usual, I have to say I'm pretty pleased. I think these turned out really nice. I think they look really good on the Jeep. Yeah, I'd say I really like them. All right, guys, as usual, if you like this video, make sure you give it a like. Make sure you click the notification bell so you get updates about all my new content. And then, as always, feel free to subscribe.